Welcome to Sound Values, powered in part by LSA Burger and Classic of Denton.
Folks, thank you for tuning in live with us tonight on DentonRadio.com. It is Halloween, everybody. The people are out there getting our candy. I've seen some spooky costumes already. We are coming at you live from the beautiful Discover Denton Welcome Center on the chilly Denton Town Square tonight. I've got the man, the myth, the legend, the king of the strings right here, Leoncarlo. What's up, my man? How are you doing?
I'm good, man.
Awesome,
Super
dude.
kind of you.
Oh, hey, it comes with the name.
Oh.
It's great to have you here, man. Thanks for coming in on Halloween, coming to hang out with us, We both were discussing whether we were going to show up in costume or not, and we just decided to keep it casual,
Yeah.
I thought maybe, I
didn't want to scare anybody away.
Yeah, exactly. I figured the face was enough, That's why I do the radio thing, face for the radio. Well, man, I'm excited to have you here. We're gonna talk about music tonight and kind of just your performance style, that kind of stuff.
Okay.
I've seen you play a couple times before, and you also had a show here for a little bit.
Yeah.
Where you were performing, and I know that got a lot of love too. It was really cool to watch that stuff, and so I'm really interested in what you're using, how you're using it, everything that you're doing up there, because I'm sure a lot of people have those questions when they're watching you perform.
Yeah.
But also, I just kind of want to know a little bit about the background of who you are, kind of more kind of like Leoncarlo the man, not just the musician, but the man.
All right. Yeah,
so, what is kind of your first musical memory, the first time that you kind of remember hearing music and it being and realizing that it was something you wanted to pursue as like a passion?
Man, that is an excellent question. Well, when I was young, I grew up in Arlington, Virginia, and my grandparents used to babysit me.
Okay.
When I was just a wee little toddler. And they would always spin vinyl for me as a kid. It helped me relax. It helped me chill out. And they would always play a combination of James Taylor, Bob Marley, Beethoven, Bach.
Nice.
And then they'd also play these Raffi VHS tapes. Do you remember VHS tapes?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, man. And I don't know, something about watching Raffi sing to people and make them happy. I think it really just struck a chord with me.
Very cool.
But see, everything really clicked into place when my granddad started telling me about how he met my grandmother. I think I was 4, and we were still living in that apartment, and he told me the story of how his commanding his boss at the naval base he worked in at the Philippines, he just presented him with a violin one day. It was a Jackson Golden violin from the 1920s. And my granddad started learning how to play violin. I think it was to get closer to this beautiful church organist in the Philippines. And she later became my grandmother. And
That's amazing.
yeah, and that's what really sealed the deal for me. I wanted to play music to meet cool people.
Yeah. I mean, that's really, I've said this before on the show, we do it for the ladies.
For the ladies.
Totally
worked. Got a beautiful wife. Yeah.
Still working on it.
Hey, it's fine.
Man, that's a really cool story, man.
Thanks,
very,
brother.
very cool. So, you grew up in Arlington, Virginia, huh?
That's
when
right,
you said
yeah.
Arlington, I was like, oh, okay, Dallas.
Yeah.
And then you dropped the Virginia on me. I was like,
Virginia.
oh, okay.
Yeah.
So, grew up in Arlington, Virginia.
Yeah. Well, technically, we'll just say Northern Virginia. As a
Okay,
whole.
cool.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
you started playing the violin. You said you were 4 years old when he told you that story. But
Yep.
is that when you started playing at 4?
Started at 6. It
Oh,
took 2
wow.
years to convince my parents to let me play violin, and they
Oh,
were like,
wow.
"Look, okay, it's not an easy instrument. If you really want to do this, you're gonna have to show some commitment here."
Yeah.
So I didn't even know what that word meant, and I was just like, "Yeah, sure." I just want to play the cool thing with the strings.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Was there anything? I mean, obviously, it's a great story. Your granddad
Thanks.
playing this violin.
Yeah.
But was there anything else that kind of drew you to that instrument? Because it is a difficult instrument. I
Yeah.
remember my mom telling me that she tried to play it, and she stopped at one point because I think she did it for like 2 years. But
It's not for everybody.
yeah, there's not a lot of people, and the neck positioning is not
Yeah,
easy.
yeah.
So, was there anything else that drew you to the instrument besides just this story?
Man, I remember that another big thing was in kindergarten in Virginia. I didn't Well, they took us to the cafeteria one day for to do a special viewing of the upcoming talent show that year,
Mm-hmm.
and I thought it was so cool that like my fellow buddies in
Yeah.
kindergarten and like their older brothers and sisters and other kids from around the school were just going up there and sharing their special skills, and I was like, well, I want a special skill. It's got to be violin. Like I've been
Yeah.
asking my parents for like a year now. Maybe they'll finally let me play violin. It was a 2-year wait.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they finally gave in.
Yeah, they finally
said,
gave
all right,
in.
All right.
It was that. It was also that talent show. Like I said, man, like that really just kind of sealed the deal for me as well.
Yeah, that's very cool.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
you're 6 years old. You get the violin in hand. What's the process? What are the beginnings of learning the violin?
I'm glad you asked because this is actually what I do as a living now.
Okay.
So yeah. Normally, the first thing that you do, kind of like a simple crash course on how to start the violin, is you show the student how to hold the violin, proper posture, proper positioning, and then you kind of give them an idea of where to place their hands on the instrument, and then you show them how the notes work on the strings. You show them how to use their left hand on the G, D, A, and E strings, and then from there, if they take well to the instrument, then you can start teaching them different songs and how to use the bow.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, I think it took about a year before I was able to start using the bow.
Oh wow.
It was a little bit of a slow start for me.
Mhm.
Some kids get it like that, but
Yeah.
or was it a slow start? I don't know. That was more than 2 decades ago.
Yeah.
man.
So that
I feel
process
old.
of
Yeah.
learning to use the bow.
Mhm.
Is the beginning you're just teaching them, okay, here's how you're going to hold it,
Yeah.
and then so the process of using the bow, that just takes that time to learn that control, and
Yeah.
those movements.
It's
and
harder
all
than it
that.
looks.
No, it is. I mean,
Yeah.
every once in a while you got a buddy who's got an old violin that he busts out and nobody knows how to play it or why he has it.
Yeah.
He just does.
Yeah.
But I've tried to play them, and it just sounds like rats in a cage.
Oh yeah, my parents were really patient with
Yeah,
me during those formative years. Oh my
yeah,
goodness,
it's one of those
man.
instruments that if you play it wrong,
Everybody knows.
yeah, but if you play it right, it's beautiful.
Yeah, man. Oh my goodness, it takes so much patience.
Yeah. So you started playing at 6. Did you? And it seems like violin is one of those instruments that you can't really teach yourself, just given the kind of the secrecy almost of the instrument in the first place. It's one of those
Yeah.
things that it doesn't have frets on it.
Yeah.
So somebody who's used to playing a traditional instrument, more of a Western traditional instrument, the guitar
Yeah,
or whatever, that's going to throw them off right away.
For
and
sure.
then you're using like something additional in order to create the sound.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So it's not
That
like
can really
a
throw
wind
people
instrument
off.
where you're using your body to create that sound, or
Yeah, yeah.
it's something very different. So, what is that process of learning to use the bow?
Oh my goodness, that is a complicated process too.
Okay.
It's harder than it looks, man. That stick with the hair on it, which is horsehair, for you guys at home who didn't know that.
Interesting.
It's the bow is your voice on the violin, and you were speaking earlier about how it's really difficult to learn that on your own, and that's absolutely true. It's not impossible. I've had students come to me who were just really determined, and they were able to get to a really good level on their own with the violin. But then, of course, they'll come to me at Bondurus Music and just we'll start lessons, and there's a lot of good foundation there already. But it really takes a lot of extra guidance to help somebody get to the next level. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like.
Yeah.
But respect to everybody that self-educates themselves on different.
Yeah. I mean,
instruments.
to me, it's always just been an instrument where when I picked it up,
Yeah.
you pick up a guitar, you put you can play it. Most people, you could teach them a song in
Yeah.
a night.
Here's a
Your
dream.
fingers are hurt in the morning, but I feel like it would take me months to just get a decent sound going back and forth with
Yeah.
that. So, are there different movements with the bow? Like,
Yeah.
Are there those different movements that you can do, and like, what are they?
Totally. Man, there are a lot of micro movements that you learn on the bow, but they all kind of combine into more grand sweeping movements with the bow.
Okay.
And the object of learning technique is to make this all effortless, so that you can really focus on the purpose of technique, which is to help you connect with the musician within. I think.
Yeah.
I think that's the purpose of technique.
Yeah. No, for sure. I would agree with that. One of my favorite quotes is from Bill Evans, and he says that you spend years and years and years learning how to play, and then eventually you just have to forget all that and just play. You know?
That is so true.
You know, and so he's saying like it just has to become a part of the being, and you spend all that time learning every little piece and trick, and then eventually you just have to let it all go and just jam. You know,
that's
just
so
play,
true.
Just go.
Yeah.
So
Bruce Lee said something similar too. I think it was the gist of it was you get the technique, you get it to forget it, basically. Bruce Lee.
You
big
get
hero.
it, until it's just a part of what you do on a regular. I would.
But that takes practice and time.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So, did you and also the violin is a little bit different too, because it is. I think if you talk to people about violin, they usually associate it with classical music.
Sure.
More often than not, that's what people are going to associate it with right away. So you didn't see like a lot of rock bands or things using the violin primarily.
Exactly.
And so what kind of music were you playing growing up?
Started out with a lot of classical music.
Okay.
A lot of the foundation that I was taught to me through classical pieces. Did a lot of Bach, Beethoven, Vivaldi. Did a little bit of the Suzuki method.
What is that?
That is a method of teaching people instruments that there's some controversy behind it, but essentially you're taking the language centers in a person's mind or brain, and you're helping connect those to music. So it's a lot of listening and then trying to imitate what you've heard. And that's great because so much of music is listening. Some of the controversy in a nutshell is that in doing that, you miss out on fundamental techniques. Yeah, the classical world is weird, man, because people just get really hard into how much technique you have and such. Yeah. But
did your parents listen to a lot of classical, or what kind of music was there being played in the household when you were growing up?
Oh man, well, besides like the Bob Marley and stuff. Bob Marley is one of my favorites.
Yeah, for sure.
There was a lot of
it's good for any moment.
I think so.
Yeah, I'd agree. Yep.
Man, yeah, Bob Marley and the Wailers. That was such an important musical group when I was growing up.
Oh yeah.
But there was also a whole ton of Pink Floyd. My dad was really into Pink Floyd, and there was a lot of Led Zeppelin and a lot of Chicago. My mom had this huge stack of vinyl that I was allowed to just go through and absorb from.
Very nice.
Yeah, but I didn't really get into all of that until I was about in middle school. Boy, there is a really interesting costume out there. I got really distracted.
Oh, man.
It's
that
beautiful.
would have
It's like
distracted me, too.
A puppet horse.
Pretty
thing.
neat. Yeah, it's a skeleton puppet horse.
I'm so sorry about that.
No, I'm glad you told me, because that was cool.
It's an interesting day tonight.
yeah. I mean, it's wild out there on the streets, man. There's Supermans, Batmans, Spider-Mans all over the place. I don't know what's going on.
During Halloween, my mom had this one vinyl that was just sound effects, and I think that also kind of inspired me to later on figure out how to use different sounds in the music that I make.
Yeah, for sure. And today, actually, in 1967, Monster Mash was released.
Are you kidding?
I know. I learned it today. It was on the radio. They were talking about it. I was amazed.
A Monster Mash.
Yeah. Oh gosh, that song's. It's kind of obnoxious, honestly.
A little bit.
I don't know. Yeah, apparently the guy went on to join the B-52s.
That's a good fit.
It makes sense.
Wow.
Yeah, the things that you learn just listening to the radio on drives. I was like, oh, okay. It was like today, this day in history. Yeah. What are some good things that have happened on the 31st?
Oh man.
So man, did you have? So you took lessons?
I did.
Okay,
I took lessons.
Cool.
Yeah.
So what is? I guess my next question. When it comes to playing, once again, because I find it's a fascinating instrument. is, once again, there's no frets. So there's nothing
Yeah.
dividing up where this note or this note or this note or this note is. So
Yeah.
it's like, where are they and how do you know?
Well, we have the way that I was taught was with finger tapes.
Okay.
So I mean, it's just different strips of colored tape that you put all along the neck of the violin.
Mm-hmm.
That's where first finger goes, second and third. You start out with that. You learn how to play things in the major scale. And then eventually you start learning that you can take that finger and squish it back a little bit, and you get what's called a half step.
Okay.
And then from there you can build minor scales too. And then in a few years, after you've played all the Vivaldi and the Mozart and really interesting music, then you start learning, I don't know, like more complicated scales, more octaves, and just building upon more and more technique.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think
was
what's
fun.
interesting too is the names that you're saying, because
Yeah.
you're probably the first person that I've had on who plays, who played that classical music. I've had like
Cool.
jazz musicians and those kind of
Yeah.
and people who played rock bands and all that.
Yeah.
But I've never talked to somebody where they've been like, oh yeah, I was playing Beethoven and this and this. So it's not only the process of learning how to play the instrument, but you're having to learn how to read music.
Yeah.
Because there's really there's no tabs out there. Like you can learn to play the guitar with tabs and the piano with tabs and stuff. You can even watch people play the piano, but I don't feel like the violin, to me, like I said, it's a mysterious instrument. It just seems like one of those instruments where like you can't just pick it up and start playing it, and so you have your little pieces of tape. But what are some of the other things that you can do, with the fact that there are no frets?
Oh man, there are so many cool things that you can do on the instrument.
Mm-hmm.
With my solo set, I like to kind of test the boundaries or the limits of the violin.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes you'll see me like just banging on the instrument, using what's called extended techniques, which is a term that people use to describe ways of playing that are non-traditional.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Some
I
people
learned that in my music history class.
Yeah. That's my favorite part about music is
Mm-hmm.
is just like learning how things historically connect. And I would say like by the 1900s there were a lot of composers just experimenting with these extended techniques and trying to not just with the violin but on many other instruments too, and then eventually electronic mediums. And 1900s, very interesting.
Anytime I hear that term, extended technique, I just think John Cage.
Yeah, man.
And
yeah.
the what was it, like 4 minutes and 44 seconds? Is that
33.
what- Yeah.
Yeah, 433.
Yeah. That song right there, that piece of music,
Yeah,
if you
yeah.
will,
Piece.
that, and just the way that he would put like nails and stuff in the piano to
Yeah,
get all
man.
these different sounds.
One of my favorite artists right now is this guy named Hauschka.
Okay.
I think he's German. The name sounds German. Hauschka.
Yeah.
But he takes he takes this prepared piano idea
Mm-hmm.
and he creates music that sounds electronic. I mean, it's cyclic and it's so interesting. He gets these different timbres
Yeah.
from like ping pong balls and
Nice.
drill bits and what are those called? Ebows, I think, on guitar. Like you hold it up to the guitar and then it just creates a long sustained tone. But he uses those on the piano strings.
Nice.
Yeah, you got to check him out.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah.
So
interesting.
I like how you said, how it like the historical connection.
Yeah.
So do you know some history of the violin? Like,
Sure.
okay, so
Yeah.
where's like one of the first places? Because I was a history guy, so I'm
Okay.
interested. Is like where does the violin come from? Where do we
man.
have some origins here?
I will do my best.
Yeah.
And if I'm wrong, I would love to know.
Okay.
And is there going to be like a comment section in this video?
Yeah, it's quite possible.
Okay, excellent. Well, here we go. So the violin's earliest ancestors, I believe, they originated from Europe in like the medieval times. You had a lot of stringed instruments with necks. I think. Oh my gosh, I'm just gonna mess it up.
No,
and dig
do your
myself a
best.
hole.
No, do your best, man.
Okay. Well, the violin didn't always have the shape that it has right now.
Okay.
The current shape of the violin, with the straight flat bow and the 4 strings with the extended neck. That comes from an 18th century design, which was implemented in order to accommodate more difficult compositions. Because we've got to look at the evolution of an instrument within the timeline of the evolution of music as a whole.
Yeah.
So as music was evolving, the violin evolved too. It started with a very short design because you didn't really have to shift beyond your beginning first position. It didn't have a chin rest.
Yeah.
Because they would take the tailpiece on the violin, and that was usually where you would put your neck. And I think they played it very similarly to a fiddle.
Okay.
But the bow also was literally bow-shaped. So the wood was curved, and then you could probably fire things from it if you wanted to. Yeah, and it was played differently and tuned differently as well. And as music evolved, so did the violin to accommodate more trickier pieces.
That's very cool.
And hopefully I'm sure it has continued to evolve as well.
Well, I mean, the fact that it's, you have electronic violins now. You have a violin that you can plug in and then run that through.
That's right.
Like all the stuff that you do.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of where
fun.
I wanted. Did you get, so as you grew older, did you get interested? How did you become interested in the loop pedals that you use and the Chaos Oscillator Pro and all the other stuff that I've seen on your sets? Like, how did you start to get into that? Were you into electronic music as a teenager or stuff, or like how did that come about where you said, I'm gonna like kind of combine these two forms together?
Yeah. Well, oh man. Okay, so here's where it all started. It was my uncles Joel and my uncle Ariel.
Okay.
And they're brothers, and they were both very musical, and they were always kind of encouraging me to just jam. My uncle Joel plays drums, and he had like a little church at the back of their house.
Okay.
And they would jam. And I got to visit him in the Philippines one time, and it was a vacation. And leading up to that point, my uncle Ariel had been encouraging me to just play along with him as he jammed on guitar.
Yeah.
And this would have been middle school. It was during that time when I was just getting all these ideas of how, like, maybe you don't always have to play music according to what's on the page. So my mom started introducing me to jazz, and we bought this CD of Duke Ellington's greatest hits, and I was just really blown away by these different songs that I was hearing that I hadn't really paid much attention to before. And I thought, why don't I just try to copy what like that trumpet is doing right there? Or maybe listen to that melody that guy was singing and then just see if I can play that on violin and then just play along with it. And then that led to just jamming along to whatever came on the radio. It was Z104.1, the Z, in Northern Virginia. And
Z104.1, the Z.
Oh, man, you just took me back. That's exactly how they said it.
It's a natural thing.
Yeah, man. What was on during that year? That would have been like 2000. So what were some songs during that time?
2000? I mean, what was that? Was Creed? Was Creed big in 2000?
I think they were.
I mean, 2000, like 17 years ago. So yeah, I mean, let's see. I was 13.
Yeah.
So that means I was in the 7th grade. So Blink-182 was big.
Okay, yeah.
Blink-182 is huge.
Definitely learned to improvise by jamming along to Blink-182 and Sum 41, Avril Lavigne.
Hey, man, look, you got to jam with them.
Linkin Park.
Yeah, that's
POD.
what I'm saying. I mean, and then even like not too long after that, in like 2003,
yeah,
I think was the first, because 2003, I would have been in like 10th grade.
Yeah, yeah.
And I remember that was the first time I heard a band called Yellow Card, and that was the first time I ever heard a violin in like
Yeah.
that type of music.
Yeah.
And they had a guy who played violin in that group, and he would do like backflips and play it. And yeah, it was.
Well, I can't do backflips yet. But maybe soon. Oh,
we'll implement that in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dave Matthews Band.
Oh, yeah, there's
he's
another,
like that group is really big in Northern Virginia for whatever reason. And being from Northern Virginia, I still admittedly really enjoy their music. It's a guilty pleasure. But besides all the pop, like what was then modern, I also, my mom would also bring up like Led Zeppelin. Here's Whole Lot of Love, son. Why don't you try jamming along to this and try imitating what that guitar is doing? So you were asking about things that you can do on the violin that you can't do on other instruments. Well, the violin can imitate electric guitar sounds really well. And I learned a few of the solos from like Chicago's greatest hits.
Nice.
I don't know if I can still play them, but well, it would just take like a little bit of practice. But,
yeah. 7-8 minutes.
7-8 minutes.
You know,
That's really kind of you.
Yeah, he'd be good to go.
Oh man. Yeah, just so much improv. Jamming along to those different kinds of music. And so getting back to my original point was when I went to visit my Uncle Joel in the Philippines, they invited me to just sit in with a church praise band one time, and I was ready.
Yeah.
I've been training for that point.
Very cool.
Yeah, and it happened, and it was fun. And then I went into high school, joined the praise band there, and started just learning how to kind of tone it down a little bit.
Yeah.
My dad had some work buddies that also had musical kids, and like that circle of fathers ended up hooking us up with some gigs here and there.
Yeah, nice.
And I met the other kids that were into improvisation and rock and jazz and just doing cool things with music in high school at that point. And also took a production class when I was in 11th grade. And the rest was history, man. Like, that's where the solo project started from. That would have been like 2006, 2005, 2006, towards the end of high school. That's when I started putting everything together and just, I wanted to do something different. And then a buddy of mine told me about this guy named Andrew Bird.
Okay.
Have you heard of Andrew Bird?
Yeah.
All-time favorite musician. Finally got to see him earlier this year.
Very cool.
Yeah. And but he was like the real inspiration for the Loop Station.
Nice. Very cool.
Yeah.
That's very cool, man.
That guy's my hero.
When so you were saying like you might have did you play with other bands, you know, cuz like I said, my musical background is the whole like bassist guitar. Like if there was a guy who played violin at our school, we definitely would have befriended him. You know what I mean? Because it just would have been a cool extra thing to like have there to jam. But we didn't know anybody who played those instruments. So did you play in rock bands or jazz bands or other groups, kind of like every high school guy or girl who played an instrument?
Yeah,
you know?
pretty much.
And where were you playing gigs at? Or
man, I started out with the high school orchestra, and didn't really feel at home in the orchestra because, there were just a lot of people at different levels, and I wanted a little bit more of a challenge. And I was already playing in a community orchestra at the time. Gosh, this is like more than 10 years ago. Wow. I'm dating myself.
Hey, it happens.
But yeah, it does happen.
Yeah, you just get older every day.
I know.
It's going to happen to all of you. Just so you know.
But in any case, left orchestra and was picked up by the school's jazz guitar program. And the director, his name was Mr. Owens. Bless that guy. He took a chance on me, and he was like, hey, I bet you'd really like this guy named Stefan Grappelli. He was a violinist from the early days of jazz, and he played a lot with a guitarist by the name of Django Reinhardt.
Oh, I know who Django Reinhardt is, yeah.
They had the Hot Club of France, and he told me about these artists, and High School Carlo was so intrigued by what I heard.
Yeah.
And so I came back to Mr. Owens, and he was like, "Yeah, well, I'm glad you liked it because I'm actually starting a gypsy jazz guitar club or class here at the school, and you should leave orchestra and come and join us." And I was the only violinist to
He
have
was
done
stealing you.
that. I know he did.
He was like, this kid's good. This kid's good. We need him.
Bless that man. He
Yeah.
really took a chance on me.
That's cool, man. That's
And,
very cool.
Yeah, and I took a lot of pride in playing with that gypsy jazz group. We played a lot of like early jazz stuff, simple charts, simple ballads, straight ahead jazz.
Yeah.
And then, but outside of that, I was also in a a high school band. We were called Felix Diaz,
Okay.
but it looked like Felix Dies. I don't know why we spelled it like that. But man, we won Battle of the Bands.
No way.
We did.
See, I told you the violin sells people. That violin, man.
It worked.
It gets them. It gets them every time.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, man. Now I'm very curious about the rig, the setup that you use.
Yeah.
What all do you have going on up there? Like for your lives, you started doing that, like you said, 15, 16.
Yeah.
And you've dated yourself, so I won't even ask. You can go back and watch the interview if you want to find out this information.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what is it? What's all the stuff that you have? What do you got in front of you?
It's been a steady evolution, and it's right now what I have is I have a delay pedal and a harmonizer pedal. It's called the Whammy,
Okay.
and Digitech makes it, and it's this pedal that goes like that. You put your foot on it. It looks like a standard expression
Looks like
pedal.
a wah
guitar
pedal
style.
in a way.
Yeah, exactly.
Wah. Okay.
Yeah, and then that helps me reach tones that a violin otherwise wouldn't normally be able to reach, such as cello sounds or bass sounds, and lower than that too, and also much higher than that as well. And I use that with the delay pedal to kind of create a big, hopefully multi-layered sound. That's what I'm going for. And then I loop all of that with my loop station. And then I have a Chaos Pad, which is an effects processing unit. It works with an XY axis.
Yeah.
And I probably sound really nerdy right now, but that's okay. This is
No,
my
I
life.
love those things.
Thank you.
Yeah, I have the original K oscillator, like the
kidding.
yellow one.
Dude.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
that's
man.
awesome.
So, yeah,
we got to talk after
Yeah.
this. That's super cool.
Yeah, I've got one of those
And
somewhere.
yeah, it just gets like buried in
And
stuff.
all the stuff you accumulate.
People acquire a lot of things.
Yeah.
But I use that, and then there's another loop station. So I kind of like, the idea is to kind of DJ between the two different loop stations to create what's the word? Well,
It's like a seamless wall, like transition of sound from one to the next. I mean,
That's
that's
the
how I would
goal.
describe your performance.
Well,
So
thank you. Yeah.
you're accomplishing that goal.
Cool.
Do you ever listen to Bonobo? Because that's
Dude, I love
definitely who you
Bonobo.
reminded me
Yeah.
of when I
Black
first saw
Sands.
you. The first time I ever got to see you live was at the Denton House show. Was the Band Together Denton. Those shows. I played after you. No, I played right before you. And I to this day I say that's the only reason I had as many people there as I did, was because I was playing after you. So that worked out. That worked out well for me. I was happy about that.
Well, they were in for a treat, man. Like, your set was amazing.
I
that
appreciate
night.
it. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
But my buddy Reed came up that night.
Yeah.
He's like, "Hey, I'm coming up to Denton. What are you up to?" And I was like, "I'm playing this show." And in the middle of me playing, all of a sudden I saw this guy come dancing right in front of me. I looked up and it was him, and you started playing. And I had to run back to my place real quick, drop off my stuff because I didn't want to carry it. And so I was like, "Hey man, do you want to come with me?" And he was like, "You're coming back, right?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he was like, "I'm gonna stay."
Oh, really?
He's like, "This is awesome." Yeah. So my buddy Reed
Thanks,
absolutely loved your performance. But we actually do have
That's
a
super
question.
kind.
Douglas Potts says, "What's your favorite piece to jam to?"
My favorite piece to jam to. It's my father-in-law.
Oh, okay. Wow.
Whatever's going on at the moment, pretty much. I love jamming with live musicians. I like pieces that have minor keys. It's fun to layer extended harmonies over minor chords. You guys know that. And yeah, right now, favorite piece to jam to. It's oof, all of me.
Yeah.
All of me. Why not take all of me?
Okay, so who's that by?
I don't know. I don't remember, but it's in the real book. I've got the 6th edition. Bust it out at gigs and watch the tips rain in.
Yeah. Yeah, you were at you played at the that gig that we did down at Dan's. What was it? The
Radiohead?
Yeah, the
show?
Radiohead.
Okay, that stuff is my absolute favorite stuff to jam along to.
Yeah, that was really cool, man. That was a fun experience.
Dude, I had such a good time.
Yeah, and so Chris hit me up and was like,
Radiohead.
"Hey, can you DJ before it?" And I was
Yeah.
like, "Yeah, sure." And it was so funny because they gave me this table, and the table was like this tall. And I remember everybody commented on it. They're like, "We can get you something taller." I was like, "No, this is so Radiohead. Like I can just ignore all of you." It's like I don't need a big table. It's all about the artistic expression,
Music
man.
for music, man.
Yeah, but that was really cool, and
That was so much fun.
yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
man.
I was definitely impressed with everybody who got up there, and so
Me
many people
too.
on stage. When I got there, I was just like, okay, I'll just set up on this side.
Yeah.
Don't even worry about me. Don't
That
even worry about it.
that was the biggest group that I've played with recently.
That's cool, man.
That was a lot of fun.
And so you've got all that stuff going on
Yeah.
up there on stage, and you've got all the loops and everything, and you have a computer up there, right?
As of lately, yes, I do have a computer.
What are
now.
you running on that?
I'm just running Logic.
Okay,
Yeah.
very cool.
Yeah.
Right on, man.
But I'd really like to get into Ableton
Yeah.
more. A lot of my favorite artists use it, including you, right?
Yeah,
Don't
I
you
use it,
Ableton?
yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Flying Lotus was one of my, or is actually, is one of my all-time favorite musicians.
Mhm.
And when that guy produces, it's usually through Ableton Live.
Mhm.
And yeah, I can't seem to get my hands on a product key. Yeah.
the thing that is
yeah.
awesome about Ableton is
Yeah.
it's built for being able to be used as a performance tool.
Yeah.
And you can also produce on it. It's got 2 different views that you can switch back and forth
It's so
from.
brilliant.
But I tell people too, it's all about like the sounds. The beginning is within the sounds, and then Ableton is the tool that you can use to start to express those sounds live.
Yeah.
And do a lot more than because it's not just you. You can loop this. Oh, I can turn this down. Then I can use this and this and this.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I always encourage people. I'm like, if you want to be a producer, you can use Logic or Fruit Loops.
Yeah.
But then you're going to need to buy a mixer,
Yeah.
if that's what you're going to want to do. I usually just encourage people to go with Ableton because it's both in one, and you can buy so much. Like you buy an Ableton performance controller, it connects right to it, like mine with
Yeah.
the 40 pads on it, and it just boom works right away.
What's that? What is their specialized controller called again? That's like the
Mine is the APC
touch?
40. Okay, yeah. So they have the push.
push.
They have the push.
The push.
So yeah, you have the Novation, which has the push, and then Akai, which is the one I have, is the APC 40 MK2. So they're a little bit different, where the push is to be more of a performance, and the APC is more of a mixing tool.
Okay.
Yeah. So instead of me playing drum beats, I'll trigger stuff with it and all that.
That's brilliant, man.
yeah.
I love watching you play, and I love watching people using those different kinds of controllers. Too.
Yeah, they're a lot of fun, man, and just the way that it's allowed for people who play the violin or can play the guitar or anything, it's allowed them to just be. They can be by themselves and be an entire band all of a sudden. It's pretty amazing. The music that you produce, man, is so beyond my scope of knowledge.
Oh, thanks,
where I'm
man.
just like, wait, what? What's he doing up there? And it's just these layers, and these they swoop in and out, and
Thanks.
and then you'll play it, you'll pluck on it too, which I also find that's another technique. We've talked about technique quite a bit tonight.
Technique.
Yeah, some extended technique.
Yeah.
So we've got about 5 minutes left, man. Here.
Oh, already? Oh my
I know.
gosh, yeah.
I know. It flies by,
That was
dude.
quick.
Every single time. I know.
Wow.
It's always like, what are we going to talk about for 50
Yeah.
minutes? Well, we will. It always comes pretty quickly.
Yeah.
So I know that you said that you've kind of been working on some music. Do you have any places that you're maybe performing with people or playing, other music? Is there anywhere if people wanted to come see you, where could they go?
Okay. Well, I have an upcoming show. I have a few upcoming shows this month. One is at Steve's Wine Bar on the 21st. I have another one, and that's going to be kind of a more intimate show.
Mm-hmm.
But another show that I'm doing this month is at Andy's.
Okay.
Yeah, good old Denton venue, Andy's.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's going to be an interesting one because I've been working to add more musicians to the set as well. In studying or in producing music as a solo artist, you encounter a lot of difficulties because there's a lot of internal monologue or internal dialogue, I guess, because there's a lot of I found myself just conflicted over whether or not to execute certain ideas, and when you have another partner with you on stage, it just creates this interesting live dynamic, you know. And I'm going to be jamming with my good friend Matt Young.
Nice.
On that day, the 17th at Andy's. It's for an album release. It's Jessica Curran's album release. She's coming back from...
Oh, yeah, I'm interviewing her in November.
Awesome.
Yeah.
She seems really sweet. We have never met.
Me neither.
Yeah.
Haven't even spoken to her yet. First time we will, she'll be right here.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's good.
We've exchanged a few words on Facebook. She's like, hey, you're interviewing me. Yes, I am. All right.
Thumbs up emoji.
Yeah. Sweet, dude. Right on, man. Okay, so that's really, man, it's been such a good time talking to you, man. Like, I've learned a lot. You know, I had a lot of questions, you know.
Pleasure,
I could talk
man.
for 2 hours, you know,
I know.
if we only had the time. So, one of the final questions that I got to ask you, man, and
Sure.
I ask everybody this, all right? What is your favorite snack? What's your snack of choice, man?
Oh, man, that is a loaded question. My gosh. I love anything with peanut butter in it.
Okay.
I kind of have a problem. I will eat peanut butter straight from a jar if given the opportunity.
If no one's watching, I'm eating it straight from the jar. When the wife leaves, I'm crushing peanut butter.
And then she comes back and it's like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Oh, man, yeah. I can get into some peanut butter, my friend.
Man, I have an obsession with peanut butter filled pretzels.
You're a good man.
That
is
like,
the right snack.
It is. Every time I go to Kroger, it's like a bag of them. They're like $1.89. I can't help it. I've got to get one.
Dude.
And then it just, you know.
They're so good.
I know. It's an addiction, though. It's a problem. I don't know. I don't know if it's just peanut butter in those things.
Did you go to the state fair this year?
No, I did not. I didn't have time.
Oh,
no, I didn't go because I'm sure there was all kinds of fried treats.
There were no peanut butter fried treats, though, unfortunately.
What?
Yeah, I think that...
On earth?
I know.
People backing out of the peanut butter game?
Yeah.
I tell you what, when me and my buddies got our first deep fryer, we fried just about everything you could in that thing.
Dude,
and we found that Kit Kats do not work well. Wafer just dissipates.
That makes sense.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
It just goes away. Now, Twix, great. Peanut butter cups, awesome.
Oh, yeah.
The trick, too, is to freeze them before you do it.
That's smart.
Yeah.
That's really smart.
And then the Snickers is delicious. Can't get enough. Can't get enough, man.
Oh,
well,
man.
dude, it's been a pleasure having you on the show once again. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Leoncarlo right here, peanut butter connoisseur and also a master of the strings, ladies and gentlemen. Dude, it's been awesome having you on the show tonight, man, so I really appreciate you coming out.
Thanks for having me.
It's the last day of October, everybody, so we got a whole new round of interviews coming up for November here on Sound Values. Up next, we got the Denton Vibe with Ellie Bell. Y'all stay right here on DentonRadio.com. Thanks for chilling with us. Stay warm out there. It's getting cold. We'll see you next weekend. Peace.
Well, thank you for tuning in. We hope you enjoyed the show. Be sure to check out DentonRadio.com for new Denton artists and where they're playing next. While you're surfing the internet, make sure you check out our friends Classic of Denton at ClassicofDenton.com.